Hello, very good morning to you and welcome to Table Talk. This is Benue Television. We are very happy indeed to be here with you once again so that we could talk about issues around Nigeria, and most of the times we hold even the government accountable around the issues that are happening or taking place in Nigeria. Today's edition of the program is going to be anchored on what has happened recently. That's the minimum wage, which has now been formally endorsed by the presidency. 70,000 naira is now pegged the minimum wage of Nigeria. The questions Nigerians are giving or asking are whether this could amount to the living wage of the country or the citizens. Also, the House of Representative members have also cut down on their salaries for 6 months up to 50% to be able to cushion the effect of the economy that is being felt in Nigeria. And another question here would be, why wouldn't the Senate also do same? Why wouldn't the various states, houses of assembly do same to complement the efforts of the House of Representatives? These and more will be taking a close look at in the course of the program. And also, we cannot forget in a hurry that Mr. President has distributed 20 trailers of rice each to the 36 states of the Federation, including the FCT, is also part of the palliatives to ensure that the economic effect that is not badly felt across the 36 states. And it's for this singular reason that we have invited a fine gentleman who believes in fixing the economy, and talking about Dr. Jerome Andoho, who is the DG Benue State Budget and Economic Planning, is right here in the studios to do justice to this very important topic. My name is Japhet Kwahom. I'd like to welcome you once again to the studios of Benue Television, DG Benue State Budget and Economic Planning, Dr. Jerome Andoho.
Japhet, thank you for getting me on the platform.
Yes, it's good to have you once again.
Thank you very much.
Now, the matters before us are quite interesting. And economically, sometimes some of us who are not professionally economists, we get lost when issues like this are coming up. You are here to throw light to the Benue people and Nigerians that are watching us this morning. Do you think the steps that are taken by the Nigerian government recently would address the economic problems that we are facing at the moment? And don't you think the minimum wage now that is pegged at 70,000 would adversely affect the states in terms of inflation and other issues? Please talk to us.
Thank you very much, Japhet, for that question. I would first of all want to say that when you have a patient that is sick, for medics or doctors, what they normally do is that they first of all give you first aid. By the time they give you first aid, which are short-term measures, then they get you to the hospital. Then by the time they get you to the hospital, the doctor now gives you the adequate attention by ensuring that you take the requisite tests, and then if it means that you've been hospitalized, you are hospitalized, and then thereafter they take good adequate care of you, and those are long-term measures. So I think that's just about the thing that the president is trying to do, looking at the way our economy is and how things are. Nobody's oblivious of the fact that indeed the Nigerian economy is going through some dire strait, as it were. So short-term measures, the palliatives, which is the 20 trucks of rice, because the most important thing in life, as we know, 3 basic necessities of life, first on that list is food. So once somebody is able to eat good food, not necessarily good, but once he's able to eat food, there is a way it stems on his ability to be angry. They say the hungry man is an angry man. So
yes.
Once he's able to get himself fed, so the frustration, that should have taken to the zenith is now some kind of maybe reduced. So the 20 trucks of rice, there are short-term measures, first aid that is offered to the Nigerian public, so that especially the most vulnerable that will see it, given what has happened,
Yes.
to be able to see how they can get themselves fed, and then thereafter other long-term measures in which the president is trying to correct the economy in terms of infrastructure and the rest can come in. Now, another thing is, like I did said, the salary increment is some kind of medium-term measure. Food is an immediate measure, which is short-term, and then the salary increase, because definitely by the time you increase salary, like we always know, there are always lag effects in any decision or policy that government needs to take. That's implementation lag. From the time the decision is taken to the time that it's being implemented is a period. So within that period, that's the need to emanate a bill. The Congress or the National Assembly needs to pass that bill before the states will now start implementing that bill, which is the 70,000. So it's going to take some more period of time. Hopefully, maybe one or 2 months thereabout before the trickle effect of the 70,000 be minimum wage will now come in. Now, if we look at the effect that is going to cause on the economy, generally, one thing we should get to know is that theoretically, once too much money is chasing too few goods, what happens is that you're bound to have inflationary trend.
Yes.
Within the economy, and given what this connotes, yes, by the time it takes effect, momentarily, we will have that cycle. But after a while, if we do not still enhance the productive capacity of the Nigerian nation, we are still going to go back. Go back to a situation that is going to be far worse than where we even took off from. That means that prices of items are going to even skyrocket much more, which the real effect of money will not be felt. When I talk about the real effect of money, is that what money can buy.
Yes.
Will not be felt. Maybe if you have the increased 70,000 naira for you, immediately maybe you'll be able to buy maybe close about maybe 1 or 2 balls of gari. But by the time you do not continue or enhance more gari into the economy, it means that it will come to a point in time that the first effect of that 2 balls of gari that you bought, maybe you come back to buy even half ball of gari, even with the increment of 70,000 naira.
Okay.
So those are some of the issues effects that we should
So Nigerians are also very inquisitive about this whole. They're thinking. A lot of persons have come up to say in public media space that distribution of palliatives will never be the solution to food shortage in Nigeria. And so one begins to be quite confused. Don't you think this is going to, what significance, what level of, effect do you think this distribution is going to cause to the economy specifically? Do you think it's going to change the situation, or would just be like dropping, a drop of water in the ocean?
Like I opened up discussion by said, for instance, if you have an accident, like I just said, if you have an accident, once they get there, they are supposed to give you first aid.
Yes.
If they don't give you first aid and they start dragging you from there to the hospital, but possibly by the time you get to the hospital, you will die. So, in as much as a lot of persons are saying that, yes, indeed, the first aid is not meant to give you permanent healing. The first aid is meant to keep you alive while you receive your main healing in the long run. And that is exactly what palliatives tend to do. Palliatives tend to give you that succor in terms of an immediate succor to keep you alive, so as by the time they are doing some of those long-term measures, when they start trickling, already you have been kept alive. So now you now start enjoying them. So palliatives, for me, in as much as some persons feel that they are not necessary, they are. But to say that they are long-term measures, that I will agree, they are not long-term measures.
It's all right. Now, there are feelers everywhere that there is gross food shortage in the country. Whatever is the reason, we do not know. Some blame it on insecurity. Some blame it on people's attitude to agriculture and all of that. As an economist, I would want to know, what do you think is really causing the food shortage, if truly there is food shortage? And are you feeling that there is food shortage in the country?
Most definitely, because partly what we have in terms of the headline inflation is mostly attributable to food crisis. there is food shortage in the country, and if there ain't food shortage, we wouldn't be talking about our president distributing 20 trucks of rice.
So what is causing it?
You had already did mention it, insecurity, one of the greatest problems that we're having, because most of our farmers have left their farmlands. Up to now we are in the rainy season, and some of them are not there to till those lands. Even if some of them have, we try to maybe provide avenues or strategies for them to really go back to farm. We're almost midway into our farming season. So, for that to be able to, that issue,
yes,
for us to be able to stem it, it will take a little while. Even if we have solved insecurity problems as of now, like I said, every policy has a lag effect period.
Yes.
So from the time that they will move into the farm and start tilling, before the farms, the products start yielding, for us to now start, having that food on our table, is also going to take a while.
Yes. Normally, when there is an increment in salaries, talking about the national minimum wage, there is jubilation in the land. But this time around, there seems to be calm. Do you think people are satisfied with, and are you also as a person satisfied with the 70,000 naira national minimum wage?
If you look at it carefully, even Labour themselves, by the time they did run into that agreement with the federal government, they were not so satisfied. And as a person who's also on the street with my folks, I know most of them are not satisfied, given the fact that the quantum of inflation for them, we eat almost everything up with that amount of salary. But again, one thing to note is that when you're going to such negotiations, because it's a minimum wage that has to be accepted nationally, and that's why it needs to pass through law. What that means is that if you need to employ, even the organized private sector, if they need to employ a gate man, if they need to employ a driver, if they need to employ a cleaner, the minimum you can pay that cleaner is 70,000 naira. And for them, they start looking at the profit. So if you insist that it should go beyond that, there is the possibility that you might be causing some opening of another Pandora box elsewhere, which is that of unemployment. Because once people are not able to pay.
Welcome back to the program. This is Table Talk on Benue Television, and we are back from that sudden break to continue with the program. Remember, we're trying to talk about the national minimum wage vis-a-vis the private sector and what will happen if it was higher than 70,000 naira. Dr. Jerome Andoho was actually doing justice to that part of the question when we had to go on that break. Now, Dr. Andoho, go ahead to tell us. You were trying to, lay emphasis on the fact that if the minimum wage was placed at a particular level, it's going to pose some difficulty to the private sector, and the people should expect that even a security person who is at the gate, it now portends that he's going to be paid at least from 70,000 and above. Yeah. Yes.
Like I was explaining before we went on break.
Yes.
If it goes beyond that, for the organized private sector, in as much as Labour, was going to negotiations with government on those issues, the organized private sector too, they have their own arm on that team.
Yes.
And for them, they are trying to look at the extent to which they are going to retain Labour within their own spaces. So if it goes beyond that, it becomes a bit difficult for them to pay those categories of laborers within their own confines, as well as maybe increasing salaries by graduating most of those other persons who are some particular level to catch up with that increment.
Yeah.
That's the increase in from 30,000 to 70,000,
yes,
which is close to about 133% increase.
Yes.
So if you look at that, the Pandora box I said it was going to open was that of unemployment. If it goes beyond that, definitely some persons within the organized private sector will now start saying, look, we can't pay that much. If we need to be able to retain labor, then it means that we have to do away with some aspect of labor, and that will now lead to issues of unemployment. I know the negative effects that comes with unemployment if it becomes extremely so high. So that's part of the things that made the trade union, that is the national
Yes.
union of labor, to
The organized labor, yes.
the organized labor, to be able to see how they will listen to reason as well. It's not so just if they insist that it goes beyond that, then what invariably they are trying to do is that they are going to send some families home. So those are part of the reason why they had to say that, look, we have listened to reason and seen what our other colleagues from the private sector are saying. We need to be able to see how to strike a balance.
It's all right. Let's take a look at the area of a dependence on government. It seems as though the government of the day has too many children than it can cater for. I don't know whether you have a different opinion to that.
To some extent, if you hear what most consultants that are being employed by state to maybe do issues of maybe staff verification and then maybe payroll stemming of leakages of staff payroll.
Yes.
What they keep saying, and the reports are there. They keep saying that the staff, in terms of government staff,
yes,
there's overbloating of staff within the public sector.
Yeah, but when you talk about that, look at the level of unemployment as well.
Yeah.
A lot of persons are still crying that I have not got a job. So
Yeah.
how do we balance it?
Which now goes to see how the private sector needs to really, really step up their game. Which, like I did said earlier, if the trade union, that is the NLC, Nigeria Labour Congress, had gone ahead with, pressuring that they should get much more, then these issues of unemployment would have been overbloated. I mean, it would have even gone up much more higher. So, for us to be able to see how we can stem this issue of overbloating of staff within government quarters, what needs to be done is the private sector, organized private sector, needs to step up their game by seeing how more factories will come into play. Even if it means that they need to go into PPP arrangements and public-private partnership arrangement with government and other models that has to come with PPP to enable that, we start situating businesses all around our environment. And for us, we're an agrarian economy, adding value to all of those products that we take from the farms. By the time factories start coming on board, and people start engaging in all kind of businesses, you now start seeing that, at least to a large extent, the issues of unemployment will be reduced. And again, if those businesses are such that their return, on investment is higher, means that they will even be paying even much more higher than the 70,000. And most other persons who are even working with the government will decide that, look, if my other mate that I sat in the same class with is taking much more and I have room to be able to go and get a job there, why am I wasting my time with the minimum wage of 70,000 naira with the government? And I start seeing that some persons will start leaving even the public sector to get into the private sector.
So in essence, you are trying to say that there is more pressure on the government in terms of people on the employment, bench. There is more pressure on the government than the private sector.
As it stands, yes, that is what is happening. The government is really pressured into seeing how it can pick up most of the unemployed persons within our economy.
Now, the most critical question I would want us to look at is, what is the government of Nigeria producing? Let's talk about the place of productivity now. You have been in this country since the inception of democracy, and you have followed everything that is happening. What can we beat our chest and say that we are producing as Nigeria?
As a government, as Nigerians, it's a bit worrisome that we've not really taken the bull by the horn in terms of seeing how we can set up factories everywhere to enable us go into real production.
Are we able to manage the ones that are available? We have refineries this is the only country in Africa that has almost all the refineries moribund.
And so
that has never happened, even within the African region.
It even beats my imagination. Not too long, I think a staff of government I think, was it day before yesterday? He came on TV and was some kind of laughing the efforts made by Dangote. You know, it wasn't such a good thing to hear that a public officer, when we are crying that we should have made in Nigerian products. You know, he came and to some extent what he was, I think Farouk, that's his name.
Yes.
And he was demarketing Dangote, you know. And if you look at what Dangote had done, he had put in close to 20 million US dollars into putting that refinery in place. And I know it wasn't the best of intentions, in my understanding, for a public officer coming to, demarket our own, in the public space. I mean, that wasn't the best. I think that when he even said that Dangote had not even been offered a license also, and there was some kind of one or two insinuations he made that were not so palatable for an indigenous company. Even if some of those things he said were true, I think it's not the best to put it in the public space.
Yeah.
What you try to do is to try to see how you can encourage our own by saying, okay, some of these your products that you're doing, maybe they have much more higher sulfur content. Why not look at ways to which you can reduce them? And the funny thing again, the questions people kept on asking was that,
yes,
how have you been able to test that the refined products made by Dangote, which is exporting, are of inferior quality? Do you have a pre-shipment test facility? Which none is existing. So how did you come to those conclusions? So it wasn't in the best of interest, at least for Nigeria.
Yes, I remember some time ago you made a clear statement here on the same television that the biggest problem of this country is the fact that we are not producing anything. At the point that we are tagged as a country that imports even toothpick. And I remember vividly you made that statement around 2 years ago. Until date, I had to ask you this question, and you're not able to tell me, beat your chest and tell me what Nigeria as a government is producing. So does it mean we will continue to be a country that waits on the table for the food to be placed so that we eat and we go away? How long are we going to continue in this? How long are we going to continue to depend on the national minimum wage for survival as against productivity?
Which goes back to my last narrative. Now look, we need to really see how we can start encouraging our own. We need to see how we can get our people to go into maybe small scale production.
Is the government willing to support such small scale enterprises?
I believe to a large extent, based on some of the policies I see and some of the initiatives I see, at least they are tailoring towards that end. It's part of the issue why we're having these issues of inflation. Because most of our inflation that we're having now is some kind of important because of the volatility of exchange rate. Because once our naira is depreciated to those level, anything that we import will come in at a much higher price. But the essence of a depreciation is to encourage local content. That is to say that when you produce, once you want to sell, it should be at a cheaper rate, so that people are encouraged to come in and bring their foreign currency to buy your products.
Yes.
So that's the essence of a depreciation. But again, like you rightly said, what are we really producing to bring down our rates to those ridiculous level to encourage people to come and invest in the country? There are two key things, or let me say three key things, that the Nigerian economy has a comparative advantage on. We have comparative in terms of energy,
yes,
which is the fuel.
Yes.
We have comparative advantage in terms of agriculture, and then we have a comparative advantage in terms of minerals, solid minerals.
Yes.
So if we are able to take leverage of these three key sectors, I believe to a large extent we now start seeing how the pressure on the dollar or the naira, now will start reducing, so much so that naira will now start appreciating in its content.
The anchorage of productivity is the national grid. Since President Bola Ahmed Tinubu took over as the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the national grid has collapsed up to 2 times within just the span of 1 year. Now, when you talk about productivity and we cannot boast of the electricity that we have, it's not sustainable. You know that we are supposed to be reeling out electricity at a very large, level where people could use power and power could be excess. But Nigeria is using less than 5,000 megawatts. So tell us, how is it going to turn? Is it possible for us to turn around the economic situation? Even if all the other indices that you have mentioned are available, how are we going to use? What are we going to use to leverage on to be able to sell our economy to the outside world?
I think the investment into power needs massive tons and tons and massive amount of tons of money.
Yes.
To be able to see how you can get the requisite energy.
So don't we have the money?
To a large extent,
as a country, don't we have the money?
We might have the money, but again, because of the peculiarities of the numerous problems that we're handling at the moment, and why I'm saying that is the fact that the equipment that I needed, to garner the power sector into full production, to enable us have that kind of quantum of watts that will enable manufacturing, propel in the country.
Yes.
Necessarily must come from the most developing economies.
Good.
And so when you want to do all of those, and given the tons, the pressure on the naira now, it becomes relatively a bit difficult. So what we need to do is to take a logic step-by-step approach towards seeing how, first of all, reducing that pressure off our naira so that it can appreciate.
Yes.
By the time it's start appreciating to some kind of good level, then we can now start leveraging on that to be able to see how we can import some of this equipment that I needed to come and institute into the framework of power. But as it were now, if you take our monies, maybe you might just go and buy some one or two few equipments that might not really, power.
But the big question is that I am very happy that each time you are here, you always emphasize the need to encourage private sector to thrive. Now, TCN is owned and operated by the government. There are private, individuals who are willing to take over that. Nigeria is not willing to relinquish that. Now, you are aware that we have an agreement with the German company that is on their way. According to the president, we're going to have a partnership with the German company that will ensure that electricity issues are taken care of. Power has been deregulated. It's no longer on the exclusive list.
Yeah.
Anyone could run power if you have the capacity. Yeah. And yet, you don't see anyone coming up to take over that space. That, look, I need to have a Benue grid. I need to have what can we actually do to be able to gain independence in terms of power supply? Must we depend on government?
No, you mustn't depend on government. Like I did said, you need tons of money to be able to see how you can propel power. Now, if a foreigner comes in to bring his investment, let's say Benue, for instance, to come and take over, maybe generating power. The question is, who are the off-takers? By the time you invest that much, it's expected to get a return. But you don't have those companies that are here that will take off those watts that have been generated. And as such, your tying down his money is not getting the kind of returns on investment that he seeks to get. So it becomes a bit of it shows some bit of apathy in making investment in such an environment. But for places like Lagos, you can see there's been a lot of persons who are agitating, even within the power sector. Those are investors. They're already getting out there to be able to say how they can generate power, because they know the factories are there, that can, take off the power, and they can get good, quick returns on such kind of massive investment. So the thing, like I did said, is about, we need to see how we can logically get out of that situation. And logically trying to get out of that situation, number one, like I did said, is that for where we have advantages,
yes,
relative advantages, let's start seeing how we can start building from those perspectives. By the time you build from that platform and you keep moving, you you start reducing the pressure on the naira, and by the time you reduce that pressure on the naira becomes more appreciated, so much so that you can now start seeing even our local persons getting monies to start investing in power, knowing fully well that they won't use so much amount of money now, to be able to get those equipment. And even if there are one or two or so small industries that are there, they can, when they are able to build up such fire stations, they can offer them their services at affordable rates.
It's all right. Let's talk about the issue of price control. This is one of the issues that we are being faced with in Nigeria. Now, minimum wage has been lifted to 70,000 naira. You have rightly said that it is going to have some economic effect. The negatives and the positives, you have cited them here. Now, when you talk about price control is where we're having a problem. Is it possible for us to have a price control mechanism in Nigeria where people cannot arbitrarily charge people in the market and extort money from them and exploit them as the case may be?
There's something that we need to understand about simple economics. Simple economics is so that, when the naira is pressured and it depreciates.
When is it said to be pressured?
Pressured is that when your naira is losing value, you're pressuring it. The dollar is pressuring it in a manner that is losing value.
Yes.
So some kind of pressure, So
sometimes I even want to ask this question: why is the pressure of the dollar on so heavily on naira? We have other currencies. Citizens in such countries do not cry about the issue of naira suffering in the face of dollar as much as Nigerians are complaining about. What is the problem with our naira? Especially now that we have lifted the minimum wage, we're still going to have issues with naira weekends today, naira, appreciates today, and this becomes like headlines in the news. Why is it different with our country?
Like I said, you see, when you talk about all of these pressures, it's just simply the fact that you're not a producing nation. Your trade balance in terms of import and export against, they are not in your favor. So when they are skewed against you,
yes,
it means that you need to be importing more, than you're exporting. So in essence, you're suffering some kind of deficit in terms of exports. So when that happens, it means that you are invariably, demanding more of that currency's your trading partner's currency.
Yes.
And as it were, in the international space in terms of trading, in the basket of currencies that we have, the dollar is one of the leading exchange rate denominator that's being used in terms of exchanges. So in some instances, at a point in time, the government of Nigeria even said, okay, let's they had gone to some kind of agreement, though they didn't really work it out the way it's supposed to, with China.
Yes.
And in terms of currency swap, with China, in terms of maybe we get our currency, the amount will give you product exactly to the amount of instead of collecting monies, we give you our products,
yes,
and then you give us some.
Yes.
It's as if it's a trade by barter kind of a thing, So, but key in this discussion is that most of the highest trading we have as Nigerians, our great major trading partner is the United States and then Britain.
Good.
Those are the two key major partners that we have in terms of transaction, and that's business transaction.
It's all right.
So,
I think we're due for a break. When we return, you will need to tell us why we are so married to the U.S. and there are better economies that Nigeria could work with. I do not know why we have so much love for the U.S. business environment and all of that. When we get back, you explain to us about that as well. Let's go on the break very quickly. It's Table Talk on Benue Television, and we're taking a look at the minimum wage, which is pegged at 70,000 naira, and the cut on salaries by the House of Representatives. When we come back from the break, we'll take a look at what the House of Representatives too have done to cushion the economic effect in the country. Let's go on the break. Welcome back to the program. Table Talk continues from here, and we're actually talking about the issue of our business ties with the United States of America, why we're always suffering the effect of dollar on the naira. And then we'll thereafter talk about what the National Assembly, that's the Green Chambers, have done to ensure that we have the economic effect cushioned by cutting down up to 50% on their salaries so that government could plan and ensure we have food on the table. Now, Dr. Andoho, could you tell us, we have suffered so much in the hands of the dollar, and once dollar is mentioned, the next country that comes to mind is the strongest economy, which is the United States of America. The countries like Russia and China have been fighting to take over the economic space, but it's so difficult. America seems to be top on the list every day, and this is affecting us economically. I do not know. Can't we shift grounds?
It's possible for us to shift ground, but there is this, when you look at the two key top block economies of the world, you're talking about the West and the East, economic block. So, and trade, as it were, is beyond just the goods and services that you exchange. It has also to do with the extent to which you tie yourself politically, as well as to tie yourself in security-wise.
Yes.
So when you look at the West, as it stands, the West has that little bit of upper hand as regards maybe this maybe beyond economy.
But are they helping us economically? Are they helping the situation? Aren't we just degenerating economically? We have been in the hands of the U.S. for quite some time.
That's why I said that beyond the economics of it, we are talking about the politics as well as the security aspect of it. When you now need maybe weapons, or you now need some persons to come to your defense on some of those issues, the West, as it were now, relatively, they have that kind of an upper hand as against the Eastern Bloc. So for us that are at the lower part of the ladder, in terms of security issues, you prefer that you deal with people who are going to give you the latest security equipment to enable you, curtail or fight some of your security challenges. So that's why I think for Nigeria as a country, most of our leaders, and again, given the fact that most of them have their kind of trainings, tilted towards the West, and even the language that we speak, which is English, they have this affinity towards them much more than going the East. Abacha at a point in time tried to see how he can shift ground. I know how it went for him. So this thing aside,
and you know that this country, the United States of America, is always ready to fight a country that wants to pull out. Why? Is it an occultic thing that they want you to be married to them permanently?
It's the economics of it, because they also are seeing that you have some kind of affiliations to them, and you can open up doors for them to be able to see how they can bring in some of their products. Because once they also produce, they're also looking for areas to which people can also buy, so as to sustain their own economies back home as well. So for Nigeria especially, we are at a very vantage position, because given our population, so to a large extent, they will also want to always keep us to be, as one of their affiliates in terms of friends.
Yes.
So as to be able to once in a while open the doors for them to see how we can also stabilize the economy for them out there.
It's all right. So, well, summarily, before we move to the issue of cut down on salaries by the House of Representatives, finally, what's your summation on the national minimum wage? Do you think, by and large, this is going to, give us a soft landing, given the economic situation we have found ourselves in? I would want you to be quoted on this one directly.
What I feel about that is that if you had even listened to some of the submissions that were made by those leaders, they said that, look, the dynamics in terms of the economy keep on changing, especially as it concerns Nigeria. So instead of the normal 5 years that you need to wait before you talk about maybe a review of wages, they have brought it down to 3 years. That, okay, what we have, we know is not strong enough, but let's see how we can kick the can down the road. Maybe by the next 2 years, we feel that this thing is not too good, then we can come back to you and start some fresh negotiation. So as it were, if you look at the 70,000 naira minimum has been agreed upon.
Are you satisfied with it? As a person?
As a person, if you look at it carefully, I would say that I'm not really satisfied with it.
Okay.
Why? Because of the fact that the headline inflation, which now has also to do with the energy as well as food, inflation, because it's a combination of these two and the other variables of inflation that you talk about, headline inflation, they are not so palatable to the ordinary person on the street. So right. I think 70,000 at the moment might not have been enough, but again, like I just said, we need to be able to see how we can balance, do a trade-off. If you push it too hard, then the organized private sector will open that Pandora box of shoving out a lot of people on the street, and that becomes some kind of maybe security challenge against
It's okay. It would be like solving one problem to raise another one.
Yeah.
It's all right. Now let's take a look at the House of Representatives. You are aware that recently they have announced a cut down on their salaries up to 50%, so that the federal government could have what it takes to take care of the biting economic situation we have in the country. I do not know can you give us the right analysis and critique on this? Do you think it's a step in the right direction? Do you think this is going to help the situation we have found ourselves in? And to what degree do you think this would also help us?
If you look at what they have done, I mean, to some extent, we appreciate them, you applaud them for that move. Even though if you try to now aggregate the quantum and then relate it to the generality of the Nigerian populace,
yes,
it comes as, it looks a bit really insignificant.
Yes.
But at least the action behind it is showing that at least we are sensitive and we care for you people. That is what may I read from that. Not to talk about the salary itself. And they are talking about their salaries. There is this book, the Oliver Twist,
yes,
who asks for more.
Yes.
So the question maybe the generality of the Nigerian populace would have been asking is that, okay, we are still asking for more. Why not take it? Why not take it, extend it a little bit longer by saying that you're not just
for 1 year.
No, not 1 year. You can look at the other issues of operational cost of government. Okay. In terms of overheads. They should have cut their overheads by half, to be able to see how, at least, that's where the major chunk of money is, in the overheads. So if they if they had gone a step further by saying we are not just limiting this to salaries, we're also looking at how we can cut down our overhead costs by half. I think that would have made more sense, because the chunk of the money is in the overheads and not in the salaries.
It's okay. Some Nigerians have said the House of Representatives are only mocking the Nigerian situation, because based on the quantum of what they take home every month, that is just like it's less than it's an insignificant 3% of the 100% of what they take home. I don't know whether you agree with that.
Which is, I just did explain to you.
Yes.
That.
So you're also in tune with that position?
Not really in tune. All I just said was that they have done something that is commendable.
Yes.
I commend them on what they have done, because the morality and the sensitivity to which they have been able to exhibit, is something that is well commended. But like I did say,
yes,
they should have just taken it a step further, because the chunk of the money
is from the
overheads.
Okay.
So once you're able to say, okay, we are taking half of our overheads cost.
Yes.
We leave the remaining half to the generality of the Nigerian public.
It's
I
okay.
think that would have
So
made
so
more
in,
sense.
in all, they should have done more.
Like I just said, like Oliver. Oliver
Yeah,
is
Oliver
just
Twist.
yeah,
All right, let's talk
more.
about the Senate. Why is the Senate silent about the situation in the country? Don't you think if the Senate, as well as the members of the state houses of assembly, will toe the line of the House of Representatives, don't you think things are going to be a lot more better than they are? And if that would be, why are they holding back?
Like I did say, what the House of Reps simply did was some kind of maybe do I say maybe like I did a moral thing.
Yes.
Just to say, okay, we are just sensitive to you people. It's not that this money is going to, really do so much, but we are sensitive to your plight.
Yes.
So even if the House of Reps and every other assembly, they reduce their salaries by half, it will still not amount to so much. The trickle-down effect will not be as much as it should. For me, like I just said, if it were possible, let them have their salaries intact. Slash your everything by 50%. That will have the kind of monumental effect that is needed.
Yes.
If they slash the entirety of the country, if they slash their overhead by 50% down, it will really have that kind of effect that it should. And not necessarily the salary, because the salaries, you will ask, how much is it? That's the real salaries. How much is it? So
it's all right. Now let's talk about speeding up the legislation. And the bill for the passage of the national minimum wage is going to be an executive one. It's going to run within a very short time. Do you see the body language of the Senate as one that would accept this expressly when it comes to their table?
Of course, yes, because this is something that has been negotiated over a period of time with Labour and the Nigerian Labour Congress. When I talk about Labour in terms of the Ministry of Labour,
yes,
and so that key representatives of government, and I believe strongly that even somebody from the National Assembly also should have been at the negotiating table, to be able to get feedback to the National Assembly. So I feel, to a large extent, it will be hurriedly passed by the time it gets to the chamber.
It's all right. Now you are the DG, Benue State Budget and Economic Planning. At the end of the day, the issue of the national minimum wage will be coming to your table. I know His Excellency will surely discuss this extensively with you. Now, what are you planning to do? Because not all states, the 18 and the 30,000 naira minimum wage is still not yet fully implemented across other states. But I recall vividly that His Excellency, even before he became the governor of the state, he advocated for autonomy of local government, and then he also, when the minimum wage negotiation were on, he said he was willing to go with whatever that is accepted. Yes. So what do you think is going to be a seamless process here at the state level?
It's going to be quite similar. The good thing with His Excellency is that he's a visionary leader.
Yes.
Quite strategic in his thinking, because he brought to bear the issue of local government autonomy. Before they started talking about local government, we have already started implementing the issue here in Benue.
It's okay.
So, and then if you now talk about the issue of salaries, His Excellency already has said that he's ready to pay the 70,000 naira.
Okay.
So, and before that had even happened, he had already selected a committee of a few, which I was on also now that committee. That committee was chaired by the head of service. That had some kind of useful interaction with the Labour in Benue State. And what was it that we were trying to do? We were trying to see how, the 30,000 that was there before, it was only grade level 1 to 6 that were receiving the complement of that minimum wage of 30,000 based on negotiations that were run by the former administration. So from 7 to 16, we are still on 18,000. So His Excellency said, okay, why not sit down and see how you can harmonize it in a manner that every other person will be on 30,000. So it was in the process of doing this that the issue of a minimum wage of 70,000 came in. And already is on the papers, it's everywhere, on the social media. The His Excellency, has said that, look, I'm ready to pay 70,000 naira. And true to type, as we know him, he's the talk and do governor. So we are looking forward to seeing how we also put up our supplementary budget.
It's all right.
And the good thing is that we are in the process of doing our supplementary budget. So all we need to do about wages is by raising it by 133% on each of the subheads as regards wages across all the MDAs, and then make that presentation at ESCO. By the time it's approved, we'll take it to Assembly. That will give sledging the governor to ensure that that becomes a law for Benue State.
Very well then. I think this has been very, very interesting. And finally, before we exit the set, have we got our 20, trailers of rice coming from the president? Because, as you said, people who are hungry would never be patient.
No.
Have we got it? Has it arrived?
Like I did tell to open up this because I said, look, there's always a time between when a policy is said and when it's implemented. There's always a small lag.
It's okay.
It doesn't happen like in the jiffy.
Exactly.
But it definitely come.
It's all right.
We're already in the process of, getting all those trailers back here to start seeing now they can get distribution get distributed to the general public.
It's all right. Well, I must say thank you so much, Dr. Jerome Horn, DG Benue State Budget and Economic Planning, for being here this morning once again to share insight as pertains the national minimum wage and the cut on the salaries of the House of Representatives. I appreciate you so much for your time and the insight shared on the program.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
We hope to have more of you as time progresses on Benue Television. And so this is where we have to say goodbye. Very many thanks to those of you at the back room and those who have who took their time to watch the program to the end. More programs will be coming your way on Benue Television, so please stay glued. My name is Japhet Kwahom. Goodbye and do have a great day.